There are many limit laws that we can use when you want to find limit of a function. Suppose limit x goes to a f of x and limit x goes to a g of x exist. Also assume that c is a constant. Then we have many limit laws. The first one, limit x goes to a f of x plus g of x is equal to limit x goes to a f of x plus limit x goes to a g of x, meaning the limit of a sum of functions equals to the sum of the limit of functions, or sum of the limit. And then limit x goes to a f of x minus g of x, the limit of a difference of function is equal to the difference of limit of function. So limit x goes to a f of x minus limit x goes to a g of x. Limit x goes to a constant time of function is equal to constant times the limit x goes to a f of x. Limit x goes to a f of x times g of x. Limit of a product is equal to product of the limit. So limit x goes to a f of x times limit x goes to a g of x. Limit x goes to a f of x over g of x, or limit of a quotient is equal to the quotient of the limit. So limit x goes to a f of x divided by limit x goes to a g of x. The denominator cannot be 0 if limit x goes to a g of x is not equal to g of x is not equal to 0. So there are some more limit laws. Now let's look at an example that we can use these limit laws. Suppose we want to find limit as x goes to 1, 3x squared plus log of x. Now we can think 3x squared and log of x as two functions. So by using the first rule, the limit of a sum is equal to a sum of the limit. So we get this is equal to limit x goes to 1, 3x squared plus limit x approaches 1, log of x. Now using the third rule, limit of constant time of function is equal to constant times the limit of the function. So we can pull this 3 out from the limit. So this is equal to 3 times limit x approaches to 1, x squared plus limit x approaches to 1, log of x. Now as x approaches 1, x squared will approaches 1. So you get a 3 times 1 plus as x approach to 1, the log of 1 equal to 0. So this will approach as 0. So you get which is equal to 3. So here in this example, we used actually the first 3 laws. There are some more limit laws. So here limit x goes to a, nth root of f of x is equal to the nth root of limit x approaches say f of x. Now we know if n is even, the inside has to be positive to get a real number. Therefore, we assume they are, here we assume where n is a positive integer. Now, if n is even, what we need inside to be positive. So if n is even, we assume that limit x goes to a, f of x is greater than or equal to 0. Either n has to be a positive, n is a positive integer, but if n is even, then inside has to be greater than or equal to 0. The other one is the limit x goes to a, the nth power of a function. So again, here we can take the limit inside the power. Limit x goes to a, f of x to the power n. Again, over here, where n has to be a positive integer, where n is a positive integer. Positive integer. Now the third one, the last one, limit x goes to a constant, a c. Since the c doesn't have anything to do with x, so you get the answer as the constant. Now let's look at a simple example. Suppose we want to find limit as x approaches 1 square root of 5x squared plus 4. Now we can take the limit inside the square root by this rule. So we get square root of the limit as x approaches 1, 5x squared plus 4. Now, which is equal to square root as x approaches 1, 5x squared plus 4 approaches 5 times 1 plus 4, or 9. So square root of 9, which is equal to 3, using limit laws. Now, for this function f of x and g of x, we have graph of f of x and g of x. So we want to find the limit based on these two graphs. The first one, we want to find limit as x approaches 4, f of x plus g of x. Now by limit laws, we know this is equal to limit as x approaches 4, f of x plus limit x approaches 4, g of x. So this is equal to as x approaches 4, f of x. Here is 4. As x approaches 4, f of x approaching this point over here, which is value is equal to 2. Plus, as x approaches 4 in this graph, the f of x approaching this point, and which is value is equal to 3. There's a hole in the graph, but limit is equal to 3. So 2 plus 3 or is equal to 5, which is equal to 5. Now, in the second one, we want to find limit as x approaches 4, 5 times f of x. So by the limit rule, this is equal to 5 times limit x approaches 4, f of x. So which is equal to 5 times x approaches 4, f of x, we get 2. So 5 times 2 or 10. In this one, we want to find as x approaches 4, f of x times g of x. So the by limit rule, this is equal to, so limit of a product is the product of the limit. Limit x goes to 4 f of x times limit x goes to 4 g of x. So which is equal to 2 times x goes to 4, g of x goes to 3. 2 times 3 or 6. The last one we want to know as x approaches 4 f of x divided by g of x, or the limit of a quotient is equal to quotient of the limit, given that the denominator is not equal to 0. X goes to 4 g of x, which is equal to limit x goes to 4 f of x, which is 2. This one is 3, so we got 2 over 3.